Charles, host and founder of B3U, and I am here today to share my story of one specific trauma that I have been through. My reasons for creating this channel is to help those that are out there that may be suffering with the similar stories of some of the women that I have interviewed. And this is to enable us to open up about our trauma so we can look forward, heal ourselves, and start walking a path to a purposeful life. And my whole goal is to empower women of trauma. Maybe even in the future, I'm hoping that men will share their trauma. I don't want to tailor it just to women in trauma because men have experienced trauma as well, and that may be the reason why they may suffer or do things in their life from past trauma that they haven't talked about or that they may have talked about and are finding their way through their lives and on their healing journeys. So this podcast, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity to burn, break, and become unstoppable, creating the type of success that you will command in your life, because I speak a lot about commanding things in life and not demanding them. But being a victim of trauma, or being someone who has dealt with multiple traumas, it's not easy. It's not easy. So this platform is a way and a light for us to tell our truths and continue on our journey, our purpose lives. So what I will share is simply me being molested at a young age by a family member. At the time, I was just a young girl. I may have, I don't know, been about maybe 10 years old at the time. I know that I didn't have my period yet, but I was so confused, and this family member was a known bully to the family. And it was I didn't understand what was going on, but I just know that I was told to do something. And, I did it because he was the older cousin. So I didn't really quite understand with the touching. I just knew that it felt very weird and it was painful. And I can remember him saying to me, "Oh, you still a virgin?" And just talking to me like I was supposed to know what he was talking about. That from this, after this, he did what he did and this incident took place. He threatened. He's like, "You better not say anything, or else I'm going to get you," or whatever he said. I can't remember verbatim the words, but I just know that he threatened me that if I said anything. And so therefore I kept it hidden for all of my life. And at the time, throughout my life, of course, the same family member was always a bully. As I grew up and I grew older, he would do things like get his friends to try to run trains on me. I mean, he's just very mean for no reason. And I always would think to myself, what did I do? Why is he so evil and angry towards me? I never did anything to him. And matter of fact, I had two other cousins with me, and they didn't learn until we were in our adulthoods, or maybe teenage. We got older, we had kids. It's when I expressed to them is the reasons why I never really cared for him. But I hid that secret with me for so long, and just didn't understand why he didn't like me. Like, why did he always target me? It was an incident where he get his friends to, someone was sending me to the store. And I was supposed to go to the store, and he was setting me up with his friends to rape me. And, me not knowing I was about to go to the store, and, I didn't, like his friends and him, they were following me. And then he grabbed me by the arm, and he's like, "Nah, man, I can't do it because my grandmother gonna kill me." And I was like, what was about to happen here? I for the life of me, I was like, what? Like, was he about to set me up? It's just craziness that, when things like this happen to you as a child, you can't understand why. And then another point in my life, I was walking home from school, and I was raped coming home from school. And I was getting, I'm from West Philadelphia. And in order, my mother had moved to the upper part of West Philly, so therefore I had to catch the trolley because we moved from down the bottom and we moved up to upper West Philly, so I had to catch the bus. And coming home, I noticed like somebody was following me because I had to look back to see if the trolley was coming, and I was like, every time I noticed this weird person just looking at me and, kind of, walking kind of weird and getting up close on me. So I felt a little uncomfortable. So I was like, okay, let me cross the street. Now, I forgot what age I was at this time. I probably was about 14 years old. But I crossed the street, and I looked back. They crossed the street. And I said, it's this person, not trying to freak out or nothing. I said, okay, let me cross the street. I crossed the street. They crossed the street. I said, okay, it's evident now that this person is following me. And so about the time I got to a point where I wanted to look back, this person was already up on me and assaulted me. And I remember something just being in my back, and he was like, "Shut up and just do what I tell you to do." So I froze. So I don't remember anything else except for here is another person threatening me. So I froze, and I just, did what I was told to do. And I remember coming home, and the police and, told my mother what was happening and everything, took me back to the scene, found my raincoat, stuff like this. And my mother, now I realize that my mother was really hurt during this time. And what I believe is that she was hurt and didn't know how to express herself, I would say. But all I know is she said, "Why didn't you scream?" And she was angry with me. Now here I am again, I'm confused. This, like, what did I do? Here, I speak for myself. I tell what happened. And here I am, I'm being blamed. Was I wrong? So I was confused. I was so confused. I just wanted it all to go away. So I just shut down. I just shut it down because my mother didn't know what I had to deal with prior to that. So for her to yell at me and say, "Why not scream?" or whatever, it's like, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I should have, could have, would have, at that time. Again, I don't know how old I was. I just know that I messed up. Okay, so these became patterns for me with my silence. I then was raped again by a friend, my mother's brother, my mother's boyfriend's brother, kind of manipulated me and had sex with me, and I really didn't want to. But it was like at this point in time, when you face so much sexual trauma, and then not to mention that I had to always watch out and fight, or I would have to deter other family members on my father's side from me. But some of those family members on my father's side, some of those men, my father was a big time drug dealer and a gang lord. And so they feared my father. So they kind of knew not to mess with me, or my father would totally have their necks. So they didn't bother me, but I still had to fight off and, tried not to be so gullible, because I was, I was just one of them happy, goofy kids, just a real happy, outgoing kid. And I guess you could say I was a little bit gullible, but but because I had been through some things already, I knew that that wasn't the way that I wanted to go. So once I was then raped, I had a child out of that encounter. At this time, I didn't want to say anything. I wasn't going to say anything, because now, after the repetitious pattern, I was like, it's just going to be my fault, and so I don't even want to even go through the motions. So what I did was I hid that, and then I met my ex-husband. Okay, so when I met him, I found out that I was pregnant. Matter of fact, my mother knew it. At the time, my ex-husband was just one of my best friends. So he felt so bad for me because I was, dating this another idiot. I don't know why. And I wouldn't even say it was dating. At this point in time in my life, I just had no value, had no self-value or self-awareness, or self-worth, that I'm allowing these things to happen. I was just numb. So I was dating a guy that really didn't even care about me. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, here we are. And, my then boyfriend, he's like, well, no, my then friend, I dropped the other guy and just was, started dating my ex-husband, and found out I was pregnant. And he was like, well, you know what? I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. You come stay with me. And at this time, he was living with his mother. And he said, come with me and I'll take care of you. Okay. And I believed him. At this time, I didn't have such a great upbringing. I was brought up around a lot of drugs. I was brought up around a lot of, a lot of things that just, I would say that children shouldn't be brought around, but shouldn't be brought up around. I've watched my mother be abused, her abuser. I've seen drugs, drug lords, kingpins, all of that. So it was kind of rough being the kind of kid that, it was kind of rough growing up in that environment. And, it just was times where, I wanted people, I used to try to get attention for people to see me. And so they can see me, someone could see me and just maybe sit down and talk to me so I could tell them everything. But it never happened. My mother, I used to try to get her attention. I was the only child for 9 years. And then she got into another relationship, which was her abusive relationship. She had 3 children out of that. And, I would just look at her situation and be like, what in the world? And I wanted her attention so bad. Like, just pay attention to me so I can tell you things. My grandmother raised me part of my life. My mother was just young. She was just out there living her best life. She had me at the age of 19, 20 years old. So she was a kid herself. And for a long time, it took me a long time to realize that my mother was just a kid. I blamed her. I was so angry because if you would have just noticed me, I might have been able to tell you the things that was going on. She always looked at me and would say I was a bad kid. You were bad. You was just so bad. You was just so hard-headed. But she never took the time to see why I may have done some of the things that I was doing. And then to turn around and watch her abusive relationship, it was devastating. Times I had to see my mother cry, or her jaw was broken, or watch her get thrown down the steps. And it was just so many things which also affected me. So when I say that it is hard to be a person or a young girl who has to face so many traumas in my life, and I'm just going to share with you this one trauma. I'm going to break down certain things that I went through, so I can share with my viewers as I am interviewing other people that some of us have been through multiple things where we can continue to just share. But the overall point to these videos, to these stories, is how we come out on top. And that is the one thing that I am very proud of. And I was just doing an interview with one of my sisters today, and it's like we were talking and to say how did we make it through? Sometimes my children, or when I tell my story to other young people, how did you make it through? And I will continue to say the same thing that I say to everyone, and it's because God kept me. God kept me because I had a purpose. I have a purpose. And He knew what that purpose was, but I didn't. And I didn't see any way out of some of my darkness. Suicide was always a thing for me. There was times where I just said the only way out is just to give up. This was even before I had children. Okay? I was a very trusting person. The first person that told me they cared, all I wanted was for somebody to love me, for somebody to care, and I just was so gullible when I look back at it. Now, I was a thug, but a gullible thug, it's just crazy. I had to fight most of my life. I was tall. I was a tall, skinny little girl, so I would get picked on because of my height and how skinny I was and blah, blah, blah. So I remember there was a time where I was so-called dating this boy in the projects. His name was Kelly. And, here I am, at this time as a teenager, at this point I'm running away from my mom's house, and I'm just trying to do my own thing because she's not listening, and all she want me to do is watch her kids. And I had to watch my brothers and sisters, not even just watch them. I basically raised them when they were little. I had to change the diapers, and back then they didn't use diapers, they used the cloth diapers. So I used to have to clean poop out. My mother had a set of twins, and first she had my brother, and then she had the twins, 2 twin girls. And I did everything for them, So it was, at one point in time, it's like, and then she kind of sheltered me once I got raped. Like, I was like a teenager, and I couldn't go off the front step. They used to, like, why won't you look? But now when I look back at it, my mother was afraid. She was afraid for me. This is the reason why she kept me, because she knew that, I was just this kind of kid, like, everything was cool. But I keep my head up in the clouds. The reason why I kept my head in the clouds is because I would try to forget some of the things that happened to me when I was younger. It's the reason why I just kept my head in the clouds, like la 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 la. It's just another beautiful day, that kind of kid. But that is just so much that I can say about things. But again, I just want to say that when people ask how do we do it and how did I do it, it's through my faith and knowing that there is a God, there's a powerful being who kept me. And I would hold on to that when I would go to church or whatever. I would go to church. I was born and raised in the church, many denominations. We'll talk about that later. But that, I would either bury myself deep in Christianity or Islam or whatever I was into, just to bury the hurts and the pains. And I would say that please watch these videos, and hopefully it will help you to find your purpose. Okay? Don't give up. The enemy, it's so true that just as there's good, there's evil. Some people, and I speak in a lot of my videos, and I say a lot of people don't believe, not a lot of people, I take that back. Some people that go through trauma, the first thing that they say is, you know, they don't believe in God, or if it was God, why would all this happen to me? And I say to every person, to every viewer, that I just ask you to do one thing, and you don't have to just you know, take my word for it, but understand, just to hold on. This is what I'm asking, just to hold on. Hold on. There is a purpose for you. It is. It truly is. And hopefully you are watching these videos, and if you have the same or a similar story or a similar situation that you have went through, listen to these women, listen to their stories, listen how they made it through and still are making it through. Every day is a challenge. Every day, for those who have went through trauma, every day is a struggle. And every day you have to self-talk your way through your life. You have to command the things that you want in life, regardless of the traumas you went through. Don't let the things of the past direct who you can be in the future. There are so many people out here that need the encouragement of their self-worth and a little guidance. Just someone to just say, hey, it's okay. It's okay. Because you're not alone. You're not alone. And I'm here to tell you that. And I'm praying that this podcast and these shows will show you that you are not alone. Not alone at all. And use our strengths. Hear our stories. And know that just as we made it through and we still are making it through, hopefully you pick up on that and you can do the same. So the way I want to give you a little, just a little insight on how I manage my healing journey. And one way that I do that is I constantly confirm to myself that I am worthy. And the biggest thing that I want everybody to know is that it's okay to seek mental health help. Okay? We were always taught that, you don't go to a shrink, that's stupid, you don't do that. But no, getting mental health help it is very resourceful, it's very useful for those that can't talk to a family member or friend or whatever, and you feel like you're going to be judged and nobody will understand you. That's what these mental health providers are there for, especially if you get a good one. Someone that you can talk to, guide you through your pains, through your traumas. They're there to help you. And I know that it has tremendously helped me, but therapy, I will admit, therapy alone was not, or the thing that helped me push through. So I implore you to find out if it's community or something that can help you be a better person. And the way I protect my peace is I surround myself with positive energy. I no longer let nobody define me with their mouth. I look in the mirror at myself, and even when I was younger, I couldn't look and I couldn't see that beautiful person that I was. It's because I was constantly told that I was ugly, I wasn't worthy. And I wish if I could go back now in my life and tell that little girl, I would tell her, you are worthy, you are beautiful, you are strong. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Be boisterous. Be loud and thunderous in knowing who you are. And I would tell her to hold on. Hold on, because all the trauma and the trial and tribulations that you're going through is your stepping stones to a great, wonderful, beautiful life. That's what I would say, and that's my message to anybody out there that is suffering from memories of trauma or whatever kind of trauma you are going through, addiction you are going through. Trust me, I will explain. I will explore more of my traumatic journeys with you, so you can see who sits before you is just the same person, the regular person. I'm not on even TV movies, TV shows. It's just Bree. And this person that sits here before you had to go through the trenches to be the amazing and see the amazing woman that I am today. So please, I pray that you find and you seek what it is that you need to be a better you. B3U stands for burn, break, and become unstoppable, creating success. And that's the journey that we are going to share together with each and every interview you see here. I want you to go ahead and take a look at the next upcoming interview. Thank you all for joining me and riding through this thing we call life and figuring it out and commanding, okay, a successful life.